They're going.
All right. Hey, John. Hey, looks like you have a little different background today. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I'm outside of the studio. I'm in beautiful Marco Island, family vacation. So yeah, it's I apologize the squints, but we got some sun.
Right. Haven't seen the sun in like 4 months, so it's like first time. So you should have had the sunglasses out. Right. Do you want to show everybody the view, or what do you think there? Do you want to, or no?
I will
Let's,
at the end. I don't want to drop my laptop off
yeah,
here.
good point. All right. Well, so beautiful, breathtaking. Maybe at the end. At the end, then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could get. You know
Hey,
what?
too
Just get
too
rid
much
of the laptop for
movement
the
in
week.
there, and his wife is gonna pull him back to his vacation time.
That's right. That's right. She's gonna throw it off the balcony for you anyway. So
There you
before we
go.
before we wrap up, but hey, we've got a wonderful, incredible, amazing guest today. So Nano, how are you, man? Happy
I'm doing
happy
great,
Thursday.
Kurt. How are you? Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. And it's been a incredible journey with John. We met during the trade show, and then from there, like we clicked right away, and just one thing after another start work happening with us as far as business development and whatnot. And it's been fun. It's we're hitting different venues and different directions, and yeah, we're having some fun.
Well, all right, we've got a ton to cover. We're gonna dive in. So again, you're very gracious because I'm gonna say this right. Nano Nóbrega, and I know so now say it in Portuguese for us. How do you pronounce your name in Portuguese?
Nano Nóbrega.
Not perfect. I'm gonna work on that all weekend.
Sound
And
like
so,
Tony Montana.
that's right.
there you go. Yeah.
Tony, man, you guys are too young to know that one. So, all right, that was a great line right there. So, we're gonna dive into your company, Collective Devise. But before we go there, I want to go back in time a little bit. So, to my understanding, you are from Brazil. If I have that,
Yeah.
do I have that correct? Are you from
Yes.
Brazil? So,
Yeah.
from Brazil. Now, it looked like you took a little detour. You ended up in LA. But just
Hmm.
share your early stages. How just walk us through that journey. Sounds very fascinating.
Try to
Want to
make it
start
quick.
there? Yep. Let's hear it.
Well, Sao Paulo it's such a massive metropolis, right? We got like what, 24 million people, I would say. It's the third largest metropolis in the world. Uh, but a big difference is that I mean, the entire population in Brazil sits right on the coast. And the difference of, if I were to compare Sao Paulo to New York, is that you do have that kind of fast pace, lots of information type of life, like everybody very career driven type thing. Definitely not a laid back place to live. But within 2 hours of a drive, you're literally in Hawaii because you're in the jungle, right? And it's just extremely tropical. And so living in a big city, I grew up and I got very much into action sports at a very early age of my life. I probably got my first skateboard when I was probably 3 or 4. So I skateboarded my whole life, then lots of BMX and mountain biking, urban mountain biking, right? And but then I got very hooked into surfing roughly when I was around 14, 15. And because, we're 2 hours away, so it's very doable to be, you're going to school during the week or working and whatnot, doing your thing. And then during the weekend, we will just, take off, put the surfboards on the car, travel for a couple hours, spend Saturday and Sunday surfing the whole all time as much as we could, and then come back. Um, but then I remember there was something as far as how this relates to my career and whatnot. Uh, we can talk about this later. Let me just walk you through the whole process. So from there, like I went to university for marketing. Most of my friends were really going after all the advertisement agencies and stuff like that. And because I got very obsessed with surfing and skateboarding, I was obsessed about the brands around it. And my goal was never to work with advertising. I wanted to do branding, just build brands and start, developing products and whatnot, right? And I was always obsessed with all the little details of the surfboards, or even if it was the construction or the logos, it was very, something that pulled my attention. Um, from there, I took a sabbatical year, 6 months, sabbatical 6 months to come to California, literally just to have fun, surf, skate, learn some English, come back home, and then kind of just, recharge and then start over. I finished college. I was like, okay, as soon as I'm done with that, then I'll get into the work sort of mojo, right? But that's the twist right there. Because when I came here for 6 months, when I was about to go back, I remember my roommates that were doing the same thing that I was doing. They're from Brazil as well. They were planning a trip to Indonesia for 3 months to live in Indonesia. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this sounds like a dream. Like, I got to do that. Long story short, I went with them. So I extended my visa for another 6 months, was approved. I remember calling my dad, like, hey, Dad, I'm not coming back. I'm going to Indonesia for 3 months. He's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to go back to school and yada yada. I'm just like, it's going to be all right. Anyways, go back to Indonesia. On the process of going to Indonesia, those 6 months before, those 3 months before I went, I met somebody, which became my ex-wife right now. But anyways, I came back, applied for a scholarship because I was going to go do multimedia in Brazil. I applied for a scholarship, got a scholarship for 2 years in San Diego. And that's me calling my dad again, like, Dad, I just got a scholarship for 2 years, man. I guess I'm staying, He's like, what are you doing? Anyways, one thing led to another. I got married, finished school, and then went to work for Academy Snowboards. That was out in Oceanside in San Diego. And then from there, moved to LA to work for Globe. And then for Globe, I worked with them for like 8 years and, manage all sorts of different brands, started just, doing design assistancy and whatnot. But I was always so, my mind was always searching for the new challenge, so I kept picking whatever the brands that people did not want to work. I was like, I'll take it. And so I eventually had like 4 different brands that I was managing. And then within that, I started a new lifestyle brand, which was a skateboard, more of a lifestyle skateboard brand where I'll mix surf and skate, which has always been both of my passions. And that was much more intricate of a product to develop. So I started to go to manufacturers because I needed to follow the process of manufacturing, because there was a lot of cosmetics that I was applying to the skateboards and nobody was really doing at the time. Wood inlays and all sorts of like different inks, glitters, glow in the dark, UV, you name it. There's all sorts of stuff that we're creating, right? But anyways, that put me traveling to China every, like 4 times a year, really understanding the whole process of manufacturing, logistics of importing the goods, warehousing, fulfillment. And when it came to, I think it was 2015, I got laid off, opened my own business. And then from there, that's when Collective Devise started. It was probably the best thing that happened to my life,
Wow. All right, John, what do you have?
I mean, I'm just thinking of that call to your dad.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'll be back in 6 months, and then it's not. It's like it's been what, like 20 years.
20 years.
And
20 years.
I just look at my boys right now at 3 and 4, and it's like, man, I don't want to go on a sabbatical and never come home.
It's incredible, man. And then the funny thing is that most people that will do sabbatical, they will do like in between, they will stop college for a second and do it and come back. I ended up doing later in life. And then I guess because when I got here, I was like already 25. So my mind was a little more independent in a way that I'm like, do I really have to come back? Not really. I'm like 25 already. I can kind of start making choices, like.
Right.
But of course, in respect to my dad, that he always gave me all the support that I needed, I will call him and be like, Dad, this is what's happening. And he'll be just like, what are you doing? But it was always a very organic process, man. Like I am terrible about planning things too far ahead in my future. I learned very early in my life that life is very unpredictable. I lost my mom for cancer when I was 15. I also recently lost my dad 4 years ago for cancer. And it's like, you learn the hard way that it's just like, okay, so what's with all the planning? Like this thing's literally came in, hit my mom and my dad and took them away in a year, and you can't do anything about it. So
Yeah, that sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that. But
hey,
yeah,
it's
right.
it's it's life story, man. It's experience. We're supposed to go through. We're all gonna go through. Some people go
Right.
earlier, some people go later. It
Right.
could have happened to me, so I'm good.
So
What was
Nano,
a cool,
go ahead, John.
I didn't say what was a cooler party for you because that was your first 6 months in the States. I've never
Yeah.
been to Indonesia. The closest thing that Indonesia sounds like to me is Indiana. So what was a cooler party? The America or Indonesia?
Um,
I'm sure completely
they're
different.
very different, right? I mean, Indonesia, it's a very used to be, not anymore. It really evolved from when I went. But it it's a very humble place. And when I went out there, like I did a lot of traveling through the islands to surf. So I will be in places that literally there will be chicken and pigs on the streets, and all dirt roads, right? And there was, well, this is interesting. Like I remember when we got to a spot where we were trying to see if there were waves breaking because it was sort of like a 1 hour walk to get to the place inside the jungle. And but there's a point where if you could see waves breaking there, we knew that that spot we wanted to go will be working. So I got my camera and I started using the zoom, like one of those old school camera where you open up that, like I started using the zoom to try to see if the spot was working. And all of a sudden, as I look back, there's literally 15 kids around me, and they're like looking at that thing like it was out of the future, man. So then I then I realized what was happening because they speak Indonesian, so it was all mimicking with them, right? And I got one of the kids to kind of like, hey, get out there, like so two or three of them, get out there, go far, go far, go far. Then I will gather all the other ones behind me, so then they were already mesmerized that you could see things in that screen. But man, when I zoomed in on the kids, and then they could see their faces on the screen, they were just like, I mean, they were just losing.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. Oh, there's we could have a whole podcast on my trip to Indonesia, man. I ran into a cow riding like a motorcycle, flipped in the air 3 times. Don't know if I killed the cow. I could have completely ended up in the hospital. There was just tons of things. The following year, we kept going to this bar where the following year they completely exploded those bars. I think it was called Sari Club, and it killed a bunch of foreigners because that was the foreigners like kind of hub to party. Anyways, there's just tons of very fun stories in there. But I love the culture, like it's people are so friendly. It's completely different than US, it's like going to an island.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, so let's when you're in LA, was it an easy assimilation for you? Were you missing home, or just feel like, man, this
Oh
is home?
man. Well, so I told you that growing up in Sao Paulo, I would be skateboarding, mountain biking during the week was kind of like what I was doing for fun, not. But and then on the weekends I'll go surfing. So I grew up, I've always loved big cities. I mean, I grew up learning how to like a big city, like sort of like New York. But then, of course, I loved going to the beach, to the jungle. And when I when I came here to California for those 6 months, for me, this was like, oh my gosh, did I just find the best of both worlds? Like, especially in LA, not so much San Diego, but in LA, it's like I have the big city, I have all these art shows and all these really cool concerts to go, really cool things to do, really cool pubs and all that, amazing places to go skateboarding and whatnot. And then the surf is just right here. I don't have to drive 2 hours. I just walk a couple blocks and I can surf. So for me, it was just like just love at first sight, man. I was just like, oh my gosh, this place. But again, I never within that very first year where I was like, okay, we'll be here for 6 months and I'll go to Indonesia. I never was like, what am I going to do to move here? It was just, I don't know, man, just life started making calls like, hey, no, you know, you want to go to Indonesia? Well, I had to make some money because I blew up all my money in 6 months. So the next 6 months, I had to find an under the table job because I only had a tourist visa. I wasn't able. And then in that place that I searched for work, the guy literally just got back from the beach that I surfed in Brazil, like all the time. So he's like, where's your accent from? Like from Brazil. He's like, oh my God, Marizias, man. And he started talking all this Portuguese thing. I'm like, how do you know that? He's like, I was just there for 2 months. And all this, because I was freaking out that this guy was we're going to be like, I don't think you're allowed to work here, buddy. But he was just like, you're rad, man. Start tomorrow. And then at that place, I met my wife because she was my ex-wife, because she was one of the manager, and that turned into a relationship. She started helping me with like, hey, look at all these schools. We can apply for this and you can get scholarship. And that's how my life started to be like, hey, listen, there's something here for you. You can choose to stay and follow whatever your heart. I've always just followed my heart, man. What I was feeling that was right for me. It sounds very individualist, but in a way, we're all individuals, right? We got to make our own choices, man. So,
Well, it's funny when like, just like when you take life like one day at a time, like today is, whatever time somebody's watching this, but today's Thursday, it's just a Thursday and you're like, oh, I'm just kind of going through the motions, making my decisions. And you're like, well, I'm going to decide to go to the United States, and then like, hey, I'm going to go to Indonesia, like, and I'm going to come back to the States. And like, all of a sudden, like, 20 years flies by. So I want to dive into 2015. So we're just longing to hear about your entrepreneurial journey. And what's fascinating, what I'm hearing is that you were downsized. So you're the accidental entrepreneur. Is that correct? So when you were downsized, you like walk us through, because it sounds like you had different options. What made you decide to get into business?
I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. So even though I would say when I was working at Globe and I was put to be a designer assistant, I was never good with that. I didn't want to be an assistant. I wanted to create things. So if they could put me to design catalogs, I'll be like, no, well, let me help you with the boards, man. And I can help you with the t-shirts and I can help you with this. It's not that I was asking for a thing. I was just showing that, hey, I'm willing to do more, right? Because I want to learn more and I want to understand how the whole thing works. And then I also recall that, as a matter of fact, when I started at Globe, um, it was 5 years after I got married. Uh, let's say a year past when I started at Globe. That's when my divorce, the whole thing started happening. So I kind of moved in with these guys from New York at the time, and I started a brand with one of them. It was called Don Dante. It was all about doing collaboration with different artists. We did two different collections, one with Miami Ink from MTV, and the other one with Cope 2, which is a very famous graffiti artist from the Bronx, New York. Anyways, so I was already like, so I will work the entire day, and when we'll get at night, and I'll put another 3 hours, at night in my house, just really pushing the brand and whatnot. And we got in really cool places with that brand, by the way. But so I've always had the entrepreneurial mind. But it's always like I feel like this is the challenge for a lot of people that are entrepreneurial, but they're somewhat afraid of like, hey, let me just drop what I'm doing working for people and I'm just going to start my own thing. But when you do have the entrepreneurial kind of mindset, you're applying that on your daily work. So it's like, for instance, when I was a designer assistant, I will look at all the art department. And people were only interested in getting their work done and go home and whatnot. And I was always going into the different departments, and I was curious about sales. I was curious about the numbers. I was curious about how do they budget the marketing side of things, and how do they budget the development of everything that we were creating. So I think my having a very curious mindset, it kind of puts you, you become unstoppable, and when you're unstoppable, you want to build your own things. You don't settle for things, you know? So I always had that kind of mindset. And because of that, I co-founded 2 brands inside of Globe, you know? I started brands from scratch, you know? And that for me was just like, this is what I want to do. I need to start doing this on my own. And I was doing that whole brand, didn't work down that until we had to stop. And then, yeah, I guess then the accident came and I just took advantage of it. And I was just like, this is the time, you know, for me to make the switch. So
I tell you, this is absolutely awesome, John. And just one thing that I love, Nano, is that insatiable curiosity, you know?
yeah,
And what I love about that is, you know, coming into entrepreneurship with the humility to be curious. Because, you know, with entrepreneurship, you know, being the surfer you are, I always equate entrepreneurship to surfing, you know? You kind of figure, you know, like, hey, I've got this whole surfing thing figured out until the next wave comes along and just knocks that, you know, puts you back into a place of humility, right? So I
which
think
is
like
good.
with you being an adventurer, you know, a traveler, you know, so and so, it sounds like this curiosity, it just really teed you up, you know, to kick off your entrepreneurial journey. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into your website. I'm going to pull it up here on the screen. Collective Devise. So share a little bit, like who is Collective Devise? How do you guys make the world a better place? Let's go there, and I'm going to pull up your website right now.
So the website started as I've always been uh, like a sole entrepreneur type guy. You know, I never got to a point where, or I never had the desire of having like, oh, I want to have my agency and I want to rent a place. I want to get a bunch of employees and I want to run the company. That was just not, it's just not me. I can't,
Right.
it's just not the way I run things. And that's why the name came in, like Collective Devise, is because one of the things that I learned a lot during my time at Dusters, which was the lifestyle surf skate brand that I created inside of Globe, um, was that I was doing all sorts of different collaborations, not only on the development side of collabs like I did with Jimi Hendrix, I did with Playboy, I did with, Cope and, all this other, Farrah Fawcett. But also because, within skateboarding and surfing, budgets can be very tight. I always had to learn how to do guerrilla marketing, and guerrilla marketing, it's
Mm.
all about collective, it's all about collaborating with other people. Like you get a photographer here, a videographer there, a skater that is willing to skate for you for free or in exchange of products. So I will put these uh, photo shoots, video shoots together with very minimum budget. And that taught me how to build things collaborating with people. So everything that I have done in my business all these years has always been working with people outside of my company. My company is myself. I don't have employees, but I collaborate with hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world. I have artists in Spain. I have artists in Indonesia. I have people in Brazil that I work with. And I think that that's the beauty. I have a little saying that I used. I heard that from Obama on one of his speeches that he says, I use it in my signature for my email. It says, the cosmic race. We are big enough to embrace the notion that we're all part of a greater community. We rise and fall as one people, right? Um, and that for me that has always been my mojo. Like, I collaborate, I join forces. It's what I'm doing with John. We're joining forces, we're building things together, but we don't necessarily work in the same umbrella under the same roof, right? And I think that's sort of based on when I talk to friends of mine that are running, advertising agencies and whatnot. They're like, that's kind of the model nowadays. Everything is just getting tighter, shorter, not as big companies with so many people. Like the model of hiring an agency with so many people and charging you so much money is just because nowadays it's just much easier to get a digital camera and shoot photos, much easier to get a digital, you don't have to develop films. Now you do everything on your phone. You can edit videos on your phone. And in a way, this kind of technology, you can think of it as a way that uh, it's taking places of people in the industry, but it's not. It's just a different tool. Like if you're smart, you will use that to your benefit. And if you are already like an incredible photographer, videographer, you're going to use that to increase your productivity. But anyways, to your question, that's how Collective Devise runs. We're all big family. It's just, it's all my network of people that share the same sort of lifestyle one way or another. Either if it's a passion about fashion, about product development, either is a passion about graffiti, art, punk rock, skateboarding, surfing, you name it. So that's usually the people that I join forces with, and then we build beautiful things, yeah.
Well, I love it. And John, I want to get you in here, but before we do that, I'm a younger guy. If you didn't, little spoiler alert, I'm not a younger guy. So when I saw this, like
Yeah.
Nano, dude, like as a matter of fact, I came back. Where did I see him? I'm on your website and I recognized Robbie like right away. I'm like, hey, I think that's Robbie Krieger. So,
Yes, it is.
so I grew up a Doors fanatic. So I'm going to dive deeper into your relationship with Apparel Redefined. But before we go there, just as a raving fan, what's your relationship with Robbie Krieger from the Doors?
Well, so Dusters, when I created Dusters, and it was more of a lifestyle brand again, as opposed to like a core skateboard brand. And one of the things that I thought would be very powerful to build brand awareness was to collaborate with, because the whole idea of Dusters was like, hey, I want to build a brand that unites surf and skateboarding. And to do that, I felt like we had to go back in the 70s, 60s and 70s,
Mm.
where the both sports were very intertwined. It started from surf and skateboard. It came from, so surfers who skate, skaters who surf. Nowadays is not that anymore. They're somewhat completely different tribes. It's different in Brazil. Most skaters will surf, surfers will skate. But in US, it's very defined. These tribes are very defined. At least the way I learned by working with both of them. And so with Dusters, I wanted to bring that back. So going back to the 70s, um, there's a lot of rock and roll, man. There's a lot of music. There's all kinds of. So I did a collaboration with Farrah Fawcett, which was really fun because we raised funds for her breast cancer foundation, right? Take care of patients and whatnot. And that's another really good thing to mention that I would say it's a highlight of my career, or my work style. Like I love making things that has a purpose. Like if we're building a collection, how do we join forces with people, with a community where we can give back to them, right? Um, so, so Farrah Fawcett was one of them. I did also different ones that we can talk about, but going back to Doors, I did Farrah Fawcett. Then I believe I did something with Jimi Hendrix, but then it was just dealing with the state. So it's kind of like a cold approach, wasn't very intimate. Like with Doors, I had a friend of mine because Robbie lives in Venice Beach, man, and I was always in Venice Beach. So one of my friends knew him, and I was just like, oh my gosh, man, it would be so rad to do something with these guys. And he was all about it because it's like, yeah, man, I had a skate ramp in my house, and he was telling us all about it. And yes, it was kind of like in a way, a very organic collaboration. And I was amazed that he was willing to, go to the office and talk to us and share some of his experiences and whatnot. He's super nice guy, super humble. It was amazing. It was an incredible experience.
Gosh, what a gift! And you talk about like just an icon, for the LA scene. And
Yes.
so, and you mentioned Farrah Fawcett. So, like, dude, like you're going back to my
Yeah.
back in my younger days. But let's dive into your. I want to hear more about like your relationship with Apparel Redefined. We always love to say, as an entrepreneur, as you well know, it takes a village to raise a child. They say it takes a village to raise a business, and
Yes.
for you to be successful, for any of us out there in entrepreneurship, we really need to align with just like wonderful people, people we feel like we have that have our back. Just talk a little bit about how critical it's been for your success to align with, just valuable trusted partners and like our friends here at Apparel Redefined. What's that look like for you?
It's been an incredible experience to the point where I remember when I met John, we were at Rock. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Rock
I said,
Printers.
yeah.
And I'm in a way I'm old school as far as manufacturing apparel. It's all about silk screen and then I started to learn about print on demand. That's when I met John, and I was amazed at how you know I always thought print on demand was something that they will print something that will look like plastic on your shirts. And I'm just like, wow, this is just some cheesy printer in your house and whatnot. But through John, I started to learn that this is a massive industry. These are million-dollar machines. Like they're very there's just a lot of technology that goes into it, and it's just getting better and better. And we've been working together, and I've been seeing the results of it, and I'm just amazed of how close things are looking to silk screen. And this whole print on demand of way of doing things, it's just really, I wish when I was starting my brand, if this was there, man. It was the brand will probably be still happening because we had to buy a bunch of stock of a brand that we didn't know if it was going to work. And it literally was when that whole the real estate market collapsed, and our investors, for the brand was part of that. So he lost a lot of money. He's just like, hey guys, I'm done. And that was the reason why we stopped. Had we had something like this where we could just kind of slowly start, printing and going taking orders as we go, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. And then, aside of the whole print on demand industry and how fast this is growing and how much that has been helping brands or entrepreneurs like me or so many out there, people much younger than me, to start their own business. Especially for you know creators on Instagram, TikTok, and name it. Like you can start a brand nowadays like that, right? But then aside of that, I started to learn, how John operates his business, how he built his business. He started very young. So he's an inspiration, man. I was amazed at dinner that I had not too long ago that we were at this trade show. He was telling me all about the way he started his business and how he, bought his partner's part of it. And it's been, leading the whole thing on not on his own, like he's got a team, but how big it has gotten, man, that's very inspirational. So it's been a pleasure to work with them. We also share similar ideas and we have similar work ethics. And when we talk about the collaborative, power of joining forces with people like that, that's when beautiful things are born. Like so it's been great. It's been magical.
Well, I love the words that you're closing out, like magical, beautiful, and it's all about those relationships, and when you align with people that have same values, trust. John, what are your thoughts here, what Nano's describing?
No, I mean, the one thing that he said that really sticks out amongst all the other things that really stick out is like the insatiable appetite for curiosity, right? And I feel that is a really common trait amongst many entrepreneurs. Um, and the other thing that I just heard, not from you guys, but Steve Jobs said, uh, what is the biggest thing that you see or biggest trait that you see among really successful people? And like, you're thinking like the normal, like discipline, hard work, that type of stuff. But he said, the thing that I see is that people that are really successful, they always want to work with people that are better than them. And like, it really freaking hit home because like working with Nano, you talk about how it's like the cell phone has changed a lot of industries and people can either fear it or embrace it. It's really hard to be really good at a lot of things, right? There's not many people, there's nobody that is great at everything, right? But like look
Yeah.
at these like segmented niches of businesses where like, hey, up until we met a year ago, like I was really interested. I would see how products are like the end product, but I'm like, how is that made? And I know I could probably do it better, especially when it comes to like custom garment creation for casinos and stuff like that, like all these crazy patterns. But I had no idea how to do it. I knew it was like being done overseas. And then you say like life just starts happening. We meet, we work on this account. We didn't totally close it. We have about 40% of it, but it's coming. And just how instrumental he was with all these connections from, you know, the storyboard to creating the tech packs to getting it and then executing. And then this bag from DHL shows up like 3 weeks later with exactly with what we had envisioned, like in mind. And it's just amazing. It's like it opens up a whole new avenue of business. And then like I've been working with one of my best friends, Kurt. We've talked about him with Matt Lancourt, rugby guy. You know, had life altering event with some bout with cancer as a really young guy, and really got into yoga. And he's a former D1 football player that has knee problems. So he's like, he's asking me like, how do I make a yoga mat? I'm like, I can print on it. I don't know how to make a yoga mat, but to be honest, I know a guy that can. So they've been working together for almost a year, and they're getting
Yeah.
close to getting their product launched. And then coincidentally, like his wife's got an amazing yoga brand as well. So it's just where I came from in a very competitive mindset of traditional sports where it's like, don't talk about what you're doing, just work harder than everybody else and shut your mouth. Like I still buy into that and I still do it, but there's also a component of like, don't be afraid to collaborate, right?
Oh
Where
yeah.
there's other people that will be better than you, and that's embrace it rather than try and fight it. And I think like just talking to people like Nano, like he's the epitome of that because his business is that. Like they just have all these different people that specialize in certain things in the guerrilla marketing. That's what we're trying to do with me and Kurt right now of like, hey, we have no budget and how do we market a company that's been around for a while, but we've never really done marketing. And just hearing and having these conversations, we had a great dinner. It is possible where like you look at it, it's like, this isn't possible. Like my competitors are spending, you know, 4imprints spending, you know, probably $1 million a week on advertising.
Yeah.
We don't have that, but we could do things better. So yeah, it's been a joy. I'm so grateful that we met at the Rock booth. Cause I got your card and we were kind of like going different directions. And,
Yeah.
you know, it was just, it's amazing that all the stuff that we've done, like you think about a year, it seems like a long time, but like we were on the phone during the summer getting all these samples. And yeah, it was, you talk about executing at a very high level. This guy could do it. And we were blowing
So
deadlines.
do you, my man. So do you.
I appreciate that. But it's amazing he's a one-man band that with all the stuff he's able to do.
So,
Thank you.
so Nano, as we start winding down, just share what are you super excited about at your business, your company, your future? What are you looking forward ahead of the year? What's that look like on the horizon here?
Um, well, I honestly try to, like I said, I learned that future is very unpredictable. So I love living in the present, as cliche as that sounds, right? That said, though, I do see there's a lot of things happening, and I think technology is really something that is growing at a speed right now. When you look at how technology, if you were to draw a map, it starts very slow, and as it starts to pick up, it's just going to shoot up, right? So I feel like we're in that part where it's about to shoot up, man. And this AI thing, I went through a 2.5 hours meeting yesterday with a product that blew my mind using AI that can help schools and teachers how to plan the entire year of classes. And the thing does it in like 10 minutes. It's mind-boggling, right? And then they have, anyways, this whole AI thing, it's coming in strong. Uh, I'm not gonna say I'm afraid of it, or I mean, I'm certainly curious about it because like that's curiosity is my thing, right? Like I'm always like, okay, what's next that I can use to my benefit to increase my productivity and make things much faster, right? But at what level this is gonna start to obstruct some of the industry, I don't know, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it because it's something new that we have no clue where it's going to take us, but I think it's going to happen pretty fast. I will say in the next 3 to 5 years, things will change drastically. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about what John is doing. The whole print on demand business is very exciting because I feel like now is getting to a point where the level of customizations and the quality of what you can build as an apparel line, it's unbelievable how fast you can make that happen, and how in a way safe it is, as far as an entrepreneur, the least amount of money that you have to come in with it. So those are two things that I'm very excited about.
And making like specifically with that print on demand, using your expertise, because like you solve, I feel, for one of the hardest thing is the equipment that we have in terms of what it's be able to do, the quality versus competition, fine. But the one thing that has not, it's almost regressed, is the quality of the apparel. Where you're putting, a Rolls Royce engine inside of a Kia. You need to match that level of quality of print with apparel. And now, something we're working on that we need to accelerate is designing apparel that's optimized for this machine.
Yes.
It's super high quality that a lot of these distributors don't have anything like that. But if you want to sell a premium product for a premium brand, you don't want that merch to be here and the brand's here,
Exactly.
right? You want continuity of feel and durability that brand is positioned with. And now that's the next thing that we're going to be working on together is really trying to match the actual garment quality with the print quality. So excited about that because there's a lot of opportunity there. Just because then we could build a brand around the brand.
I'm excited about that too. 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Nano, I know you're a busy man. We appreciate your time. As we close out, I'm going to sneak one last question in there so you're stuck with me for another minute. Best
Let's go.
business advice that you have ever received. Best business advice that you've ever received that you'd like to pass along maybe to your younger self. Maybe there's a young, not necessarily young, a new entrepreneur out there. What do you feel is the best business advice that it's helped you be successful for the past 10 years?
Um, there's a there's a little quote that honestly I don't know where I got this from, but it's stuck to my head. And I think it represents the way I've always dealt with my life. Like that's my lifestyle. And it says calm and confident. Calm and confident. What does that mean? It's it's about trusting the process. I think doing something that you're passionate about, that you love, it plays a big part of it. Because when you do that, I feel like things just happen organically. When I first started working for Surf Magazine here in Brazil, and I saw the lifestyle and I saw that, oh my gosh, like people can actually make money, have a living, but just talking about surfing the whole freaking day. They're just like, I want to do that, right? Um, and as I took on that pathway, well, by looking at that, one of the things that I could see that it was very different from all my other friends doing things that they were like, yeah, I got this job and I make money, but I freaking hate it, and they just wanted to go home. And when I was working at the magazine and working, and just by working with surfing, skateboarding, and snowboarding my whole life, uh, people are stoked, man. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like you're doing something that you love. And because you do that, that puts you in that mind state of like calm and confident. do what you love, do it well, stay calm, very confident, and the universe will lay out everything to you. Like you don't have to wake up at 5. You can if you want. You don't have to work 24 hours. You can if you want. If your heart says, hey, you got to wake up tomorrow at 5, do it. But you don't have to. I think the most important thing is to believe what you're doing, to fall into that state of calm and confident. You got to be calm to go through the ups and downs, but you got to believe that it's just the pathway is just beautiful right in front of you. And the universe wants the best for you. Always. The universe wants the best for everybody. So when you accept that and you let life happen, I mean, of course, you're taking your actions on a daily basis. Do your best, like I said. Life will deliver. Life will deliver. You know, so that's the best advice that I will go back on my anxiety days of like, oh my gosh, am I going to get this work or that? I will be like, bro, relax and believe, calm and confident. It will happen for you.
Drop the mic, dude. That was absolutely brilliant. Man, did I need that. We're doing like, where were you 20 years ago? You know, maybe I'd have some hair left. But so calm and confident. Couldn't love that more. John, your thoughts, your takeaways as we close out.
Dude, let's start a brand.
There you go. I don't know. Yeah.
Like I was like, dude, John, get the t-shirts, get them running right now, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, I'm always in a state of controlled chaos, and just by you saying that, I feel like just a wave of calm. I mean, I am looking at a beautiful setting here, but man,
yeah, it doesn't look very chaotic right now for you.
Yeah, John, let's. I know you're not going to drop your computer. Let's see the view real quick. Let's see the view real quick. Calm and confident, John LaRoy.
Yeah.
Let's see the view, right?
How can you not be calm and confident looking at that? Come on. That's, yeah.
Yeah, no, I am.
That's the magical pill
Yeah,
right
I'm
there.
just waiting for my wife to get the hell out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, John, we'll let you guys run. So, Nano, thank you. We're going to have your website, LinkedIn. We're going to have that in the show notes here. We appreciate you. We applaud you. We just wish you just monster continued success. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you, man. John, I got to say, like, he's like one of the most hip guys I've ever met. And plus, he knows Robbie Krieger from The Doors. This was truly a gift. This was a blessing. And Nano, we wish you the very best, my friend.
Thank you so much, guys. All back to you. It's been an honor. It's been fun to be part of this, and I admire what you guys are putting together. This is really key content for people out there, especially the people that follow, Apparel Redefined and what they're doing. I think this, not just me, but all the other, I'm sure everybody that will bring in will bring a little bit of piece of information that could turn into a seed to just bloom for people in the industry. So congratulations. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I know you guys are not getting paid to do that. So that's you giving back, man. That's you giving back. So I applaud you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Hey, thank you. We wish everybody, man, anything that you missed, man, hit that replay button because this was just such a phenomenal conversation. So, Nano, looking forward to future conversations. Keep crushing it. John, get to your family, hug the kids, hug the wife, and just forget about work for the next few days. And we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers.